I think gasoline prices are a big problem for the administration right now. If they're $4 or $5 a gallon on election day, he's in trouble.
Right. Now, we always have this discussion about just how meaningful the price of gas is for the economy. And while it is what people see in terms of the economy, they see whether they have a job, they see whether their home values have gone up, and they see what it's cost them to fill up a gallon of gasoline at the tank. The reality is our economy does not rise and fall solely on the price of gas, does it?
No, in fact, the rise in gasoline reflects a strengthening economy not only here but worldwide. When oil does cost more, it takes money out of consumers' pockets to spend on other things that they'd rather spend their money on. So higher prices do slow the economy.
Right. Now, let's put aside the question of its economic impact and let's focus on it as a political football in effect. Republicans, Newt Gingrich comes out and says, if you put me in the White House, I'll get the price of gas down to $2 a gallon. I mean, do you think Newt Gingrich actually believes that?
No, I don't think he believes most of what he says. And that one's really far-fetched, because the only way you get to $2 is if you have a global depression or something like that just kills demand. That's the only way you can get there, I think, in 4 years.
And yet, President Obama's issues around gas, it's kind of a problem of his own making, isn't it, Rex? And by that I mean the president comes in kind of touting his green credentials, his emphasis on alternative energy, his emphasis on solar and wind power, his emphasis on building an alternative energy base. He goes ahead and he puts the kibosh on the development of the Keystone Pipeline, or at least he delays it till after the election. So if people have the perception that he is not friendly for the price of gas, it's largely his own fault, isn't it?
Well, I think so. You know, he's trying to wean us off of petroleum, and that's a hard thing to do because we really like petroleum, and there's really no alternative to it right now. Despite how much we love electric cars, that's not an alternative for most people. Gasoline is where it's at, and people want the cheapest gas they can get. And he does have a problem because he shut down production in the Gulf after the big spill. You know, probably for good reasons, but maybe he kept that on a little bit longer than the voters think he should have. And there's this perception that the Democrats are really against drilling anywhere in America, and that is a big problem for him right now.
Right. And yet, at some level, the high price of gas is the fault of the American people, isn't it, Rex? Not that any voter going to the booth is willing to blame themselves for the high price of gas, but the reality is, as soon as the price of gas went down a little bit, as soon as the economy started to come back a little bit, Detroit went back to building pickups and SUVs, which are what most American consumers want.
Yeah, you know, it is interesting that people like those big cars, but I think there is a subtle shift going on in behavior of the American consumer, because if you look at the miles traveled per month, it's been very, very weak ever since the recession hit. In fact, it's barely up year over year, and it's far below what it was in 2007. So we are seeing a shift in people's attitudes and behaviors away from driving so much, and I think that might be a permanent shift. Is gasoline going to cost $4 a gallon from now forever? You know, people are going to find other ways to deal with their lives, including moving closer to work and getting rid of that extra car and shopping online and all those other things.
Okay, Rex, final question for you. Would President Obama rather see unemployment below 8%, or would he rather see gas below $4 a gallon at the pumps come November?
Well, that's a tough one. That really is. I think that actually the gas price might be a little bit more important for him right now.
Really?
I think he'd rather see lower gas prices.
Very, very interesting.